and even like my mom would be like, all right, Kelvis, so like what, somebody breaks your car window, like what do you, like, you get it fixed, like it's not the end of the world, you know? And I was like, but it shouldn't happen.
But it shouldn't happen.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and it was, and you know, and then I would talk to Craig about that stuff, and he's like, you'll be fine, man. And then and like Craig's lived in London his whole life, right? So he's like, it's just a part
He's
of, you
used
know,
to it.
I've had my car broken into 100, you know what I mean? It's just like, and I'm not used to that, dude. Like I come from a place where people fucking leave their
The
doors
door's unlocked. Yeah.
you know? And it's like, that's not how I do. Like this state that I leave my car in London versus how I would leave it in Meaford is like vastly different. Like
I can imagine.
if in London you'd be like, nobody owns this car, there's nothing in here. And then if I go to Meaford, there's like CDs everywhere. You know, you're like, I'll leave it running, it doesn't matter.
Whatever.
You know? But that was, so there was this decline where like, and dude, I felt so bad for my parents too, because I was calling them every day, and like if I couldn't get a parking spot like close enough where I could like see my car from our room, like I'd like lose it. Like I'd look out the window, and if somebody would leave that night that was in a parking spot, I would like go out and I'd move my car, and like and the whole time doing it, I'd be like, this is fucking insane. Like I would literally be like, or like, dude, I would take my car and just drive it around the block. So like if somebody saw me, they didn't see me just move like 10 spaces over. Like I would take it for a quick rip.
And
then hope nobody came in that time, and then yeah. So it was just like, it was controlling my life. And that was when my mom was like, look, like you gotta come and like speak to the doctor and stuff. Cause like and even I mean, like Lost Arts was supposed to play this like live stream show at Palisade, and I like couldn't focus. And my mom was like, you have to cancel the show. And I was like, are you fucking crazy? Like I can't cancel the show. Like we've been bitching for a year about not playing, and we finally get to play. Like, are you crazy? And she's like, yeah, like you can't do the show. And I kept being like, no, like there's no way I'm canceling it. But it was just this added stress every time, like the show get close. And then like thankfully I finally talked to the guys, and I was like, God, man, like I haven't been in a good place. And like anytime they would, like we would do a band call, and I'd just be like, hey, what's up? Like you'd have no idea, right? So that was like, I told them, and they were like, oh man, yeah, like we had no idea, like no worries. And then like thankfully the COVID restrictions were good.
Thankfully.
Like, yeah, it like matched up that I like messaged the guy, and I like made something up that like there was like a family issue or something. He was like, honestly, like we need to reschedule everything anyway. And I was like, thank God.
But it worked out at least. But
yeah, it worked out. But that was like the worst time, where it was just like, it kind of stemmed from that truck getting stolen. And me also thinking like, you know, it was kind of a funny story for a while. And then, like I said, there was no like follow up on how I was doing. And then it just seemed like every time I thought like, okay, we're good, we're in the clear, like something else would happen. And nothing ever like I said, like nothing that was ever fixable, you know? But it didn't really matter.
It goes back to your anxiety, like you were saying, like any excuse for your anxiety to find something to freak out about, it's gonna do it.
Yeah. And it was just driving me crazy.
And it by the sounds of it, dude, it sounded like it was controlling your life.
Oh, it was absolutely controlling. And that's when my mom was like, you have to come home, you have to come see the doctor, like you have to.
Because you were starting to look for it.
Yeah.
That's the problem, man. Like when you start going to look for the problem, that's the problem.
Yeah, like you just can't do anything. And that was the thing. And then I was like, you can't. I think we were that week too, like we did the Ready the Prince podcast, and again, like if you were to watch that podcast, like you'd have no idea. But I was like losing my mind at that time. And my mom was like, well, cancel the podcast. And I was like, no, like I can't do that.
Right.
You know? And again, it would have been fine. Like we're friends with Steve. If I told him like we couldn't do it, it wouldn't have been a problem. But like, I just had this mindset of like, no, like we have to do this. And, you know, because I didn't want to cancel shit because of it.
Yeah,
you know? It was
of course.
Like, no, I need to like work through it. But it was when it's taking over your life like that, and you can't cope with it. That's like you have to stop. You got
to take a step back.
You do have to take a step, and it's hard, man, because like life doesn't stop. You know, like even in COVID, man, like stuff still goes on. And we were talking about music before, right? It's like still is like, well, do I hold on to these songs or do I put them out or what do I do? But like sometimes you do have to take a little bit of time and like fucking like full stop and
put the brakes on
and regroup. Like you have to do that sometimes.
I mean, mental health comes first every time, man.
Yeah, it has to, because
Has to.
it will never get better if it doesn't.
Yeah, if you
And
keep
like,
ignoring it and
yeah,
like pushing it back and just keep trucking and doing the things you need to be doing or need to be doing,
yeah,
you know, it's just gonna fester
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
just gonna get worse and worse and worse until you actually break.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, like if
yeah,
you address it when it comes up, it becomes a lot easier to deal with,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
than leaving it
Yeah.
in the behind you, right?
Yeah. Well, and like I've actually just recently, with my like realization of like I need to kind of address my anger more, has been like, 'cause I'm not a very confrontational guy, but I've started to realize like if something's bothering me, I need to like bring it up, because like I got like in a little bit of trouble at work because like it was kind of, it doesn't matter, but like um I like reacted in a way that like wasn't good, and then that resulted in a like we had to have a meeting, and then but I had the whole weekend to think about this meeting, and I just had this like laundry list of like 2 years of being at this place of shit that had bothered me that I never said, and I would just like come in every day, and I would, because like this whole thing was like, you don't act this way, like you're fucking like one of our top guys, like what is going on? And I
Yeah.
just like, and the first thing was like, when that truck got stolen last year, like, what the fuck was that? You know? And then all of them collectively were like, oh yeah, like we didn't even think about that, you know? But then there would be stuff that I would bring up that they were like, how come this has never come up before? You know? And
Right.
then I realized like, I was pissed. And then I'm like, yeah, if I just maybe talked about that a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have been so like pissed, you know. But there was
Yeah.
like stuff inside that I like didn't even really know was inside of me, that I was like, man, that's been bugging me for 2 years, and I didn't even really know that, you know. So I'm trying to be better with like stuff that
Yeah, man.
is like bugging me. That like Craig and I had an incident with the podcast, like with a guest last week, and we were just kind of not saying anything about it. And then I was like, you know what? No, this has happened before. Like I'm gonna say something, and I said something, and Craig was like, that was pretty blunt, and I was like, it was, but also it needed to be said. Like
Said.
now it's dealt with. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it wasn't like aggressive, but it was just like I just said the truth of what was going on. You know,
Sure.
this is how we feel. You know, and it was dealt with, and it was like cool, and I was like, I think I'm gonna do this more. Like, and it's
Yeah,
gonna be
man.
hard, but I think that I hold stuff in, and like I said earlier, like I hold stuff in, and then I walk around my fucking apartment forever thinking about
Mm-hmm.
it, you know, and I'll be like, I'm not gonna think about this, but like what I am gonna say to them, and then an hour's gone by where I've done a million laps and had this conversation in my head, like I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
You know that like brain, like you just get like this brain fatigue.
Yeah, like brain fog.
Yeah, where you're just like you've been thinking about the thing for too long.
Yep.
I do that to myself all the time, and I'm getting a little bit better at like
That's good.
you're gonna stop right now, and you're gonna actually not think about this. You're gonna go do something like productive,
Yeah.
and whatever. You know what I mean? It's always like I'll be opening Logic to like work on something, and then I take that minute that it takes Logic to load to be like, I'm just gonna think about this real quick, and then the session's been open for an hour, and I haven't even
You're
looked
like,
at it. So
whoa.
I'm like having this fake argument with somebody. So I don't know. I'm trying to
Yeah.
just be a little
It
better
sounds
at
like
that.
you're battling with a real you're battling with repression. It sounds like you repress a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that that's where that like where like the shyness comes in or whatever, where like I find myself a lot being like, if I anticipate something's gonna come up, and I'm like, oh, this is how I'm gonna handle it. And then like the conflict will come, and then I'll just be like really passive about it.
Right.
And then I'll text Julia and be like, you believe this fucking guy? And
So the anxiety causes the repression then.
yeah, and then what happens is then that builds into me not saying anything, is
Frustration.
then I get frustrated, and then and whatever, right? And then it's like, if I just said what I wanted to say,
Right.
because most people I found are reasonable. Like most people, if you have an issue, you know,
Yeah,
because not everybody's coming at you or like, oh, it pissed you off. I certainly didn't mean it that way, you know, and I get that all the time with the way that my voice is and stuff. I get in trouble all the time for being like sarcastic, and it's like, oh no, that's just how I talk. Like
right.
you know what I mean? Um, and a lot of the times when it's like, dude, I didn't know you had an issue. Like it's all good. You should have just came to me. And then it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, and I kind of
Well,
snapped
shit.
at you. You know, I shouldn't have snapped at you. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's just this whole thing. You know what I mean?
it's all about getting that healthy mindset, man. And it's like learning to respond when the situation evolves, rather than letting it fester and then it eats you until the point of frustration. And then it comes out negative. So there's no rebuilding at that point. You've already ruined the chance of rebuilding it.
Exactly. And the more, like, that was the thing that I dealt with for a long time, and I try to help my like younger friends that I can see going through that stuff, is like, I used to act in such a way where it was like, well, I'm anxious, so like, why aren't you like catering to that? And I would like taint a lot of friendships, because once you keep acting that way and then apologizing after like the fifth or sixth time, people are like, hey man, fuck off. Like, like, you know what I mean?
You're just a dick.
You know, and then you're like, well, what do you mean, man? I'm anxious. And then you're like, no, I'm being an asshole. Like, I am also like, I'm responsible for like navigating.
To a certain degree. Because like, keep in mind too, like, you do have a mental health illness, it sounds like, that you're battling, right? So like, you can't beat yourself up entirely for it, because it's something that you are dealing with. And like you said earlier in the podcast, like, it's something that you're aware of but can't control sometimes. Right. So you have to give yourself that credit, at least.
I think that that's not something that I do anymore. It was something that early on I found that I was kind of consistently like tainting these friendships, where I would like, I think it was like this, I don't even know if this is accurate, but like, it was almost like if we were doing a thing, like an activity or whatever, and it wasn't like fully, like, I didn't feel that I was getting like enough attention, I would like fall into this state. And then you're just like kind of ruining fun times. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you're right, where it's like, it's not totally your fault, but also if you're the guy at the party all the time that's like being a bummer, people are probably going to stop asking you to come, you know? And like, what I found is like, I just needed to take that extra bit of responsibility. And I found that that's helped me a lot, of like, well, wait a second, like, if I'm consistently like to different groups of friends causing the same issue, like, that is the problem. Like, I am the problem. That. And like, it's the same thing of like, where I agree with you to be like, you know, like, you're still dealing with this thing that's not totally in your control, but also, we also said earlier, like, it's important to identify the problem and then move forward. So like, if you're not moving forward, you know, even with anything, man, it's frustrating if you're helping a friend with anything and they're just like not willing to accept that advice or your help.
Of course.
They ask for it. At some point you're like, hey man, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah.
And I just think that that's important, is like, taking that responsibility for yourself is important. And like, absolutely you're going to have situations where like you're totally out of control, like out of your own control. But I just think that like, I do my best now to make sure that those events are like fewer and far between. And they used to be very common, and it was just like,
it's like walking on a tightrope. It's a delicate balancing act.
It's feeding into itself when that's happening, because like, you're now the guy that's like ruining friendships, and then, or like events or whatever it is, right?
Whatever it is.
You're aware of that.
Yep.
And then that's bumming you out even more, or like whatever, you know what I mean? And it's just like this vicious loop, and you have to figure out how to like break that loop and get out of it. And maybe,
break the cycle.
You know, because when they are like fewer and far between, like, people are way more receptive to that, of like, yeah, man, like, no, like, what do you need? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Because there was a time like with my band where like, that was kind of the final straw when we started, where like, I was kind of doing that again, and it got weird, and I think we like kind of almost broke up. And I had a talk with Hayden at the time, where he was like, dude, like, this is where it's coming from our perspective, where it was just like consistently, like, I was just a burden on this thing.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And I was like, I have a pattern of doing that. So I really took like a hard look. But there's been other situations where like, you know, Nick's been having a hard time, and I'll see him kind of make these, I don't want to say like mistakes, but like make these, like, he's younger than me too, but like he'll do these things, and like Nick isn't as open as I am, and I'll just shoot him a text and be like, hey man, like, you don't have to talk to me about this, but like, here's a little bit of advice for whatever it's worth, you know? And he's usually pretty good with that stuff. Not to like out Nick or anything, but like, it's just, I was just using him as an example of like,
shout out to Nick.
Yeah, shout out to Nick. I love Nick so much. But everybody deals with that stuff differently. But when I notice my younger friends like that haven't had all of those like experiences yet, but I can see the seeds of that shit and them trying to figure it out, I'll try to be like, hey man, like I know exactly what you're going through, and like you don't have to talk to me about it, but like try doing this and try doing that or whatever.
Sure.
It is, you know, to cope with it.
You always have to be careful though with that line too of like expending yourself too much.
Yes. Yes, you know,
that's always like a hard thing to deal with, because I find myself doing that a lot too, Caleb. So I totally relate to like seeing things in other people.
Yeah.
And then, you know, either living it myself or knowing somebody else that's gone through it and see how they came out of it and be like wanting to help them, right? Because I'm a caregiver, that's who I am.
Yeah.
But it's like I have to remember to not spread myself too thin.
Right.
Because then I'll burn out, and then like it only affects me at the end of the
day.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. So that's true.
It's okay to help people for sure, but make sure you're helping people when you can help people.
Yes. Right. That's true. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point too. Cause it's that's the thing to me. It's like all of us are going through our own shit, you know. So it's tough when, like, you know, I had another friend from Meaford who actually kind of in the thick of me going through all that stuff in November, he was going through some shit. And again, like he's not a guy that's like very open, but we've been friends since we were like 4. And he would like he was hitting me with these like really like weird cryptic texts, and you know, and I was like, it actually like helped me for a bit, because I actually had to like kind of drop what I was doing and try to figure out what was going on with him so I could help him.
Right.
Because it's hard too, like he's still in Meaford and doing his thing, but it's easy to also like feel alone when everybody else is off in other cities and shit like that, right?
Yeah, of course.
And like, not that I wish he wasn't going through the stuff that he was going through, but like there was that moment where like I was able to be like, I had like a few days of like relief of my shit to be like, what's going on, man? And and it wasn't easy. Like he was being hard to deal with, but it was good because I was just consistently like checking in on him and stuff, you know.
That's good, man. It's important.
And it's good to have those friends. And like I was happy that there was a point where like he would not talk to anybody, and like he would have like drug issues and stuff, and I was just, he didn't deal well with like coming at him with like, let me help you, but I would just drop the like, you can call me whenever you can, you know. And there's been plenty of times I've woken up at the morning and noticed that he like called me at like 3, and then I'll be like, fuck man, like I'm sorry, like what's up? And then he'll be like, no, like I'm good now, man, but like, you know, I was just going through it at that time, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the phone or whatever. Now he's been better with that shit, you know. But
that's good.
I don't know, man.
And we've talked about it on the pod, like my podcast before with my past guests, of like making sure it's so important to reach out to anybody. Like if you're going through something, it doesn't matter what you're going through. If it's too much for you, or you feel like it's too much for you, it's so important to reach out. Absolutely. And I know I said earlier, like, make sure you're okay to help out other people. But like, so I feel like I'm contradicting myself now. But like, I mean, like, if someone's desperate and someone's needs your help, then please help them, for God's sake. You know, like,
well, I mean, some people just need somebody to talk to too, man.
That's all it is, man.
With my buddy is like, I noticed when he gets bad is when it's like he hasn't been able to like talk to anybody for a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he'll just be like, oh yeah, like, you know, and like we have such a friendship that like our friendship is mainly based in just insulting each other. So sometimes it is weird where it's like I'll get a like, I fucking love you so much, man, and it's like, shut up. But it's like, you also need to be like, you know, I try to like always tell my friends that I love them, because I do, and I think that that's important to hear.
Very important.
But yeah, like it's just, even if it's just to talk, you know, because we had like, there was another friend, like there was like it was kind of like the 3 of us that we always grew up with, and we've all kind of grown apart in a way, but like my buddy Jobin, who's like the 3rd guy of this group, I texted him the other night, and I was just thinking about him, and I was like, dude, I fucking miss you and I love you so much. And then he's Lubs, I miss you. But like him and my other buddy like hadn't they were like best friends, and they just like hadn't talked in a while. And I'd message Joe and be like, hey man, have you talked to him? And he'd be like, no, I haven't talked to him in a while. And I'd be like, you should, man, like you should just message him or whatever, you know. Or like sometimes I'll think of something from like grade 4, you know. I'll think of somebody random. This is a fun game to play with friends. Think of somebody random that was, you know, like, I mean, you might have a different experience because you went to like bigger schools, I imagine, but like we would have like these like random kids that were just in like 1 or 2 grades, and then they'd like disappear, right? So
that happened to me too.
I'll just message them from time to time and be like, what do you think Jesse's doing? And they'd be like, Jesus, I haven't thought about Jesse in
forever.
7 years, you know? And it's like, and that's hilarious, because then you just start thinking, then that brings up other stories, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm like, you just like fucking shoot them a message every now and then or whatever, you know? It's like, because some people just like won't talk, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty chatty, obviously, but you know, it's like it's good just to like message people, and just like have a conversation, you know, because I found sometimes that helps, but it's like maybe you don't need to talk about the thing that's going on. Maybe you do, like, you know, whatever you need, but sometimes you just need to like have a conversation with somebody.
I feel like it might even come out, even if it's just a conversation at first.
Absolutely.
It might even turn into that. Like you might get comfortable and then you just start talking about it naturally.
For sure.
Right? So yeah, I definitely agree with you, Caleb. Like just reaching out, even just for a conversation, is so important. And like you said, I've been getting better. Not that I was ever bad at it, but like I do it much more now in this weird self-realization period that we're all living through, being isolated at home. Of messaging people that I don't normally talk to very often. And being like, hey, I fucking miss you and I love you, dude. Or like whoever, like just reaching out to people. Is so important, and I think we took it for granted.
I think so too, man. That's amazing. I did that last week to a girl that I went to high school with, and we were like pretty close in high school, and I hadn't talked to her for like, she lives in Ottawa now or whatever, and I was just going through Instagram stories, and like she had posted something that she would always go on like exchange trips and stuff. And so we would always make fun of her because she went and did like a semester in Chile. And she came back and she told us like one story of her in Chile, right? And then anytime she would say anything like in class or whatever, we'd be like, hey, Carrington, have you been to Chile? And she'd be like, and it turned out that we actually made her like very insecure. Like she thought that she was talking about it so much that's why we were making fun of her. But dude, this is just like small town fucked up humor apparently. That's cool. Because we were at a party one night and we were drinking or whatever, and she was like, "So I really talk about Chile now?" And we were like, "Oh no, like we're just fucking around." And
so that one time in Chile.
But she had some like Instagram posts, and I messaged her and I was like, "Hey, you remember when we'd make fun of you about going to Chile all the time?" And then we talked for like a while, like we had like a back and forth and just like a catch up, and it was like, and then at the end she was like, "That was nice," and I was like, "Yeah, like, we haven't talked about forever." And I'm like, I might do that more. I might just hit up somebody random and be like, "What's
so important, man?" Like, and honest to God, that's like not really the full reason why I messaged you for this podcast, but it's like I haven't talked to Caleb in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long. We realized like 2 years. It's been like 2 years.
Yeah, like when we first started chatting at the beginning before we were rolling. Yeah, we were saying like it's been 2 years since I've even seen you in person.
Yeah, which is wild.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
No. Well, that's why I was like, yeah, it's only been a year, right? And then it's like, no, that's not possible. It's been
crazy, man.
Almost 2. Yeah, it's so and that's what's weird, man. Like we used to do this thing where like at least every couple months we'd be like in the city, in somebody's city, you know.
Every time Lost Rights came to Toronto, I was always there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, and yeah, it's super weird where like that's not a reality anymore.
Yeah. I mean, here's a good point. It's kind of sad that it only took that for us to get together though.
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm realizing now is that like, yeah, you'd see friends when they roll through town, but you could make the effort to go see them more if you wanted to.
That's so true too, eh?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I found that's the case for like most bands. Like thinking back to like when I was in Common Chase and we were touring with you guys and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you make all these fucking cool friends in these bands from all these shows that you played.
Yeah.
But you really only see them when they're playing shows.
Yeah, it's only ever in the context of shows.
Yeah, it's like
seeing the same set that you've already seen. Yeah.
You know, like you go to support them and stuff, you chat afterwards, but that's what you're going there for. You're going there to chat afterwards with a couple of beers. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You know, you've seen them play 100 times, like you know the songs.
You know, that still rips. It still rips.
Still rips, bro. Here's my $10 fucking ticket fee. Like,
yeah.
You know, but it's like I could literally just call them and be like, "Yo, what are you up to?" And then I can drive to wherever they are. Like, so I've realized that now. In this pandemic that like it's funny, I was talking to I think Nicole, my last guest, about this. I was like, I talk to more people outside of Ontario now because I have a lot of friends abroad, right?
Right.
Because I lived in the UK for a year, so I have friends in the UK still that I talk to. A lot of my friends moved out west to Vancouver and Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I've noticed now that I actually talk more to them than I do people here.
Right.
Just reconnecting,
Yeah, it's so strange because like it almost feels weird to be like cyber talking to the people that like live near you. You're like, I can see them whenever.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit of that.
But like in COVID times, it's literally the same thing. It's like you could live down the street from me or on the other side of the world. I still can't see you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts, man.
What a world, buddy. What a world. Well, let's flip the script a little bit here.
All right.
And I called, what's this segment called? The rainbow segment.
I was gonna say it was something about a rainbow. Yeah.
No, you remember. I
do, man. I remember.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, this is the rainbow segment. So this is what I like to like bring up some of the positive things that have happened in said person's life that are going through these mental health struggles.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Caleb, are there any positive things that you've discovered or are still finding out about living with the stuff you've had to live with?
Dude, imagine if I said no.
I've had people say
no. I think there's always I've been trying to actually get better at like seeing the positive.
And we talked about it briefly in that tangent we were on.
Yes. I think that it is important. Something that I'm actually trying to do that I think has been helpful is anytime I'm starting to feel like not good or starting to feel like things aren't going my way, I try to like stop and be like, but I'm also grateful for the life that I have.
Yeah.
And I think, man, like it's been very recently that I've been like looking, like I had excuse me, like problems with my parents and stuff, but like my relationship with my whole family has been better in the last like few years than it ever was. Which I maybe don't think is fair when you look at like a teenage life, like when you like you just like stereotypically hate your parents.
Yeah, like, the whole rebel phase.
Yeah, and something I was thinking about the other day, it's like it's also crazy to be like, I feel like you don't think about like the adults in your life. I feel like you think of them in like a very static way, and then like the more you grow, you're like, no, dude, they're like in their 30s or their 40s or whatever, trying to raise people.
Yeah.
Like, you appreciate like maybe how like that's tough, but anyway.
Yeah.
The point that I was getting to is like, I said earlier, man, like I never really had to worry. Now I don't know what my parents' financial situation was when we were growing up, but like I never had to worry if there was like food on the table or if there was a place to sleep at night or whatever.
Right.
And I think that was something that I don't know if I want to say like take it for granted, but like looking back, I'm like, oh, like I'm grateful for that. Like, and you find out like after high school, like there's friends where it's like, oh no, like I had to help like pay the mortgage or whatever. And you're like, what? Dude,
wow.
And like as unlucky. And this would maybe be people that like I would be like, fuck man, that guy's so cool. He gets all the girls. I wish I was like him, and then it's like, what's the trade-off?
You don't realize what they're going through on the side, right?
Yeah, right. And so like I'm like, man, I'm really grateful for that. And like, and just for maybe I don't agree with everything that my parents used to I almost said to train us, to raise us. When you train your baby,
train your human.
But also too, man, like I think like they were also very good with like work ethic and like money, and like if you you work for what you want. If you want something,
sure,
you work for it and you save for it and you earn it. And I think that that's something as a child is hard to wrap your head around, but as
of course,
adult, it's fucking so important.
Yeah.
And so just being grateful, man. And like, dude, like I something else that I try to like be grateful for is like I still have all four of my grandparents. Like all my grandparents are
that's crazy
like, new in their 70s. Like when I was both my parents are the oldest, and so I think both of my grandparents were like 18 when they were born or whatever.
Okay, so they were young.
Like, when my parents had me and my brother, they were like, my grandparents were in like their 50s. It's
wow, so that's young grandparents.
I had like young grandparents, and that's not something I think about. And then you meet people and you're like, oh yeah, like I didn't know my grandma or whatever, right? And it's like I knew great grandparents, and that's something where it's like, fuck man, like that's actually wild, and like
that is pretty wild.
That like I got that, and I still get it, man. Like I still my grandparents are still up and doing shit and fucking.
That's amazing, dude.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's why, like, people don't get that, and I'm like lucky to have that. And so I try to stop when I am feeling like angry or whatever, and I try to, like I said, I try to stop and be like, I'm grateful for what I have, even if it's not everything I want it to be. You know, I wish my band had more listeners. I wish more people listen to my podcast. I wish stupid shit didn't make me angry. But at the end of the day, man, like, there's not a whole lot that I would like trade up for. You know what I mean? Like,
so you're saying in a way that like the positives about dealing with your mental health has it made you kind of like step back and see these things more clearly?
Yeah, I think
and
so.
making you grateful. Like the frustration you have to feel is like debilitating sometimes, but then you step back and go, yeah, this sucks, but like I have all of these other things.
Yeah, I think what you know, where I kind of said earlier, where like I was so paranoid about these, you know, people in London that I was worried about smashing my car up, right? And I would look, I would literally see them in the parking lot, and then I would be like, fuck, man, like I feel fucking horrible that like there's people that have to go through that, man, and I have no idea what that's like at all. You know, so I think like in saying everything that I just said, like I think it's just the fact that like I'm grateful that I have like a support system. You know what I mean? I think I'm grateful that I know my parents would do anything for me, and I've also said too, like, knowing that makes me never want to need them for anything. Like I know that if I needed money that they would help me, but that's why I never want to ever ask them for money.
Of course.
You know what I mean? And like and again, like they worked hard. I know that when my brother was born, I'm pretty sure my dad told me, he was like, I was freaking out last year about like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, I'm gonna be 24, like, you know. And he was like, I was 24, I had a newborn baby, and I just started trade school. Like, you're gonna figure it out, you know. And I was like, yeah. The first like 5 before I was born, like my parents had no money, and they had my fucking brother running around, you know. And they're like, what are we gonna do? And you know, and so I just all that to say, like, I know that at the end of the day, I'm actually very lucky, you know, and I know a lot of people would be like, dude, you get anxious at the mall. Like, I'd fucking love to just get anxious at the mall, you know, to have everything up. And it's like, and I work hard, man. Like, nothing's ever been like handed to me, but I'm lucky to have those support systems, because I know a lot of people aren't.
That's huge, man. And it kind of segues into my next question, actually. So
perfect.
It worked out great.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask, like, have you found any constructive ways or solutions in dealing with your mental health? And I'm guessing you pretty much answered it, but anything else you could think of that you
so we got the medication, we got the I love the idea of meditation. I just need to force that into my life. I need to make that a habit.
Sure.
Dude, how fucked up is it too that like eating potato chips or like smoking cigarettes, easy habits to form? Meditating or like eating healthy, almost
literally doing nothing.
Yeah. like so hard to make that a part of your life. But you're like, I'll just do anything that's destructive though. That's easy. But yeah, I definitely want to add meditating into my life, because when I do get into it, it's great. And yeah, man, like I said, I think my parents have started to mellow out as they get older, and they've been good. Like I said earlier, like I think they have gotten to kind of a new point in their life where they've like been able to maybe reflect a little bit, and now they offer that advice to me. And you know, and I said it too on my podcast when I first kind of started talking about like my anger and stuff, where I was like, you know, if I ever have kids, like that's something that I'm going to be like so aware of like early, and try to like get that out of them like as early as I can.
Of course.
You know, just because I don't really know, but like I'm assuming maybe my parents didn't fully like wrap their head around what was going on with them until later, you know.
Right.
And like I said, now that me and my brother are like out of the house and they're just fucking loving life,
they're chilling out now, right?
I think they've had more time to be like, hey, wait a second, you know. And then when I call them all frantic, you know, it's a lot easier for them to be like, look, we've all been
got this, Caleb. It's all good.
It's all good.
So it's support system is a big one then, right?
I think I think support systems are a good one. And
you have your parents, you have Julia there.
I got Julia, I got my brother.
You got your brother, you got all your great friends, your band.
Got great friends. I got this podcast now with you.
Hey. Glad I could be a small piece of it.
Yeah, man. I think, and then again, I'm very happy and like grateful that that's what I have in my life. And
I think a good constructive way that we touched on earlier that maybe you can dive into deep more is how you were saying, like, with your anxiety and your frustration and stuff that you deal with, you're now trying to step back and kind of analyze it a bit more and realize that you're doing it. That's a really good constructive way of combating it, you know, like, and a lot of people that have generalized anxiety or maybe some sort of anger management issue, if you're listening to this pod and, you know, listen to Caleb has to say about his situation, like, I think it's super important to like try and like step back if you can. I know it's difficult sometimes, but if you start seeing that trend happen to you, like Caleb said that he's seen himself, maybe just take a deep breath and like just analyze it. Be like, why do I feel this way? Like, why am I getting myself worked up over this thing?
Yeah.
You know, like, is this really worth being this way over?
Yeah.
You know, and then just taking yourself into the moment a bit more rather than just letting yourself run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important that you said analyze it and not overanalyze it.
Analyze it.
Yeah, I think a common thing with a lot of us is you add over in front of analyze, and that's a big part of the problem. But I think absolutely, man, and again, that's a hard thing to train, is to be like we said earlier, like just pump the brakes and just take a second and read through it. And
it's not gonna happen overnight.
Yeah,
like it's hard, not going to happen immediately, like we talked about earlier, like how the instant gratification thing is such a big problem.
Dude, there's actually
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I had this funny thought last night, and I was like, oh, this will be perfect for the podcast, but because Julie and I have been watching we've been watching a lot of Hell's Kitchen over the pandemic.
Dude, love Hell's Kitchen.
Dude, I love it so much.
Gordon Ramsay's fuck though.
Dude, you know what though? He's a good guy, dude. He actually does a lot of good.
In real life, he's a nice guy, but
on that show, dude, he's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But we were watching it last night, and like Julie and I will do this thing where like if somebody in a movie or a TV show like does or says something, even if it's not accurate, we'll like look at the other person and be like, that's you. And then we'll like have a little back. But sometimes it's true. And last night something happened on the show and I was like, she's gonna say it. So this one guy, like, he brings his food up, totally bombs, like it's like not good at all. And they like give it back and he like walks back in frustration and it like cuts to the cutaway. And he goes, I'm so pissed off right now and there's nothing to break around here. And then Julie looks at me and goes, that's you. And I was like, fuck, dude, that's totally me.
Oh man.
And I was like, actually the problem is there's always something to break, and that's the issue, is
there's something always in my vicinity.
You break something and then you're like, oh fuck, I shouldn't have broke that. But I just thought that was kind of funny, because I was like, yeah, that's maybe me. I'm gonna work on that not being me.
Have you ever punched a hole in the wall?
I've never punched a hole in the wall.
Interesting. So I actually have punched a hole in the wall.
Really? That's always something I've been like very cautious of, was not punching a hole in the wall.
That's good. I'm glad you had that consciousness.
Yeah, you know what I did do though? This is maybe not any better, but at the apartment building, there was we had this like built-in like drawer unit and like cabinet, right, for the clothes. Yeah. And I can't remember what happened. Something not cool happened, and I was pissed. And I had just fucking just ran and like kicked the door, but I like kicked through the door and it like came off. And I was like, oh fuck. And that was one of the times where I like sent my dad a picture and I was like, how do I fix this? And he was like, what happened? And I was like, I think you know. And that's when he was like, you need to fucking figure this out. We gotta dude, my dad made a new door and we fucking painted it and everything, and they never said anything when we moved out. But that's the closest I've come to like punching a hole in the wall. But what's your punching a hole in the wall story?
Oh, you want to know?
Yeah, I want to know, dude. That's nuts.
Man, all right. Well, wasn't planning on saying anything about it more, but honestly, I don't really remember much. I was in such a rage that just
yeah.
That whole I mean, that was like in the middle of my drug addiction.
Right.
So a lot of my life in that period of time is very blurry for me.
Right.
It's probably just a lot of repression.
Right.
Like a lot of me wanting to forget that I had that part of my life.
Of course.
And then just the drugs in general just fried my brain.
Yeah.
So just like a lot of those memories are pretty hazy.
Right.
But I think it had something to do with a girlfriend at the time or something like that. Like we broke up, and it was a nasty breakup, and I wasn't in a good place to begin with.
Yeah.
Like with my depression and stuff, and trying to figure out that. And then obviously I was heavily into drugs and stuff like that at that point, and not dealing with my problems properly.
Yeah.
And then the breakup happened, and it just kind of threw me over the edge a little bit, and I just took it out on a wall.
My thing with the walls has always been like, I know I would like punch a stud or something, and just like
I was nervous about that.
Yeah,
I mean, like, but not while I was doing it, but after. I was like, that was so dumb. Like I actually like looking back at it now, I punched above an electrical outlet.
Oh wow!
So that could have killed me.
Yeah, that could have been real bad.
That could have been real fucking bad. Like a light switch. It was like it's like that little tiny partition wall between where a bedroom would start, like at the door.
Yeah.
I literally punched almost right through it.
Oh my god.
Right above the light switch, and I could have fried myself probably.
Yeah, dude, that would have been wild.
Yeah, it would have been like the scene from like Flubber where his hair is like
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I've never the one time, although this was more of a provoked incident, but because me and my brother like never got along until he was like a couple years in university, and he was back from university, and I might have been in like, I don't know, grade 8 or grade 9 or something, and I'd come home from school, and he would just like fuck with me all the time, and because he was bigger than me, like he would hurt me a lot, and I would kind of just like let it be, and then but then I would like eventually I would snap. And so this was a day that I was gonna snap, and my mom above the couch in like our basement had this like old stained glass window, like it was like a decoration, and then like my dad had like, it took him forever to find it, and so my brother's like got me to this point where I'm like, fuck you. And this is the one funny part of the story. He's now standing over by the couch. I pick up a cordless phone, think I can't throw the phone, and I put the phone down, and then there's a bottle of nail polish remover, and I grab that, and I throw that. So dude, I had one
thought process.
I had like 1 second of clarity of like, you can't throw the phone, idiot. And so I fucking throw this thing in
nail polish,
and he fucking moves, and it just fucking and dude, a fight has never ended faster in your whole entire life. We both just looked at each other, and I go, why did you move? he goes, what the fuck? And I just
that's the problem. He moved.
And then we, exactly. And then we had 2 hours of just like, fuck, dude, like, what are we gonna do? And then my brother was like, I'll take the blame for it. And then, dude, what was even more crazy is like my mom wasn't pissed, and my dad never said anything about it. And like we were just prepared to be like, it's over. And then, like it turned out that my dad was fucking pissed. but he just like didn't say anything about it.
Wow.
And like now he'll like maybe make comments about it, but like it was so long ago now, it is what it is. But that was like probably the worst thing I have. And which, like, again, that was more of like a sibling fight than like an anger problem. But
sure.
It's also kind of a funny story. But
wow, man.
I just always love that I picked up the phone and then was like, oh, I can't do that.
I can't do this. Let's throw a thing with glass and stuff in it.
Yeah. And then I pick up the nail polish remover and just fucking huck it.
Oh man.
Holy shit.
Well, on that note, Caleb, because I'm sure we could go on for hours.
Yes.
And I'm sure maybe we'll stop rolling. We'll go on for hours. I don't know. But I think the listeners have reached the point, I think.
Yeah.
So I got a final thing for you, buddy.
All right. What's up?
So for the listeners out there listening to the pod, do you have any final thoughts or feelings you want to express to the listeners? It could be like a message of hope, any advice for people dealing with similar issues as yourself, anything like that.
I think, which has just been my main thing, I think this whole time has been like, find whatever way it is that you can like cope with what's going on. And I think, like we said, like the first thing is like accepting that maybe something's going on, and like taking note of that, of how it's affecting your life, how it's affecting your relationships, because all that is very important. And I think that doesn't get talked about enough, that like it's kind of, dude, life is weird because like you're kind of in it alone, but you're in it with other people, if that does that make sense?
No, it makes sense.
And because you have to take care of yourself first, and ideally, I mean, again, not everybody has great support systems, and that sucks, but there are people out there. There are we didn't really touch about it. Like, I didn't really ever do therapy. I went like twice out of high school, and I thought it was great. There wasn't really any reason I didn't go back. It was more of just like a logistics thing, but
sure,
but those options are out there. And man, now in the age of the internet, like there's like great cheaper resources than I think thousands of dollars with a physical therapist, like an actual therapist, not a physical therapist, an actual
physical therapist.
I'm sad.
Hey, if you want to get a physical therapist, go for it. But, like...
but yeah, I think my main thing is like figuring out like how best you can cope with it, and that's going to be a lot of trial and error too,
Yes, absolutely.
But I think it's important to try stuff, whatever it is. So look into some meditation, try it. Meditation is tough, like it's not easy. It's something that you have to do a lot of.
Take it from Caleb and I, it's difficult, man.
Yeah. We both have downloaded all of the apps. It's just making it a part of your daily life.
Yep.
And figure out like how you can kind of get to those next stages. Like it's what's the next stage that I need to get to, and then like you said it earlier too, man, like it's not like a flick of a switch. It's not a pill that you take. It's not anything. It's a process. And something that I'm even just trying to take in my own personal life, like with businesses and stuff. It's like, it's way easier to achieve like smaller goals than the big goal. And obviously the big goal would be like, I'd love to never feel anxious again, or I'd love to never feel depressed again.
Yep.
Which maybe is achievable, but it's not achievable like immediately.
I like to think about it as like, imagine you're in your house, or if like, just imagine you're in a house. It doesn't have to be your house, whatever. And you're in the downstairs. And it's like a 2-staircase house.
Right.
So just imagine each step.
Yeah.
Is the next step you got to take to get upstairs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's like where you'll start to find like small successes, and take note, you know what I mean? Like take note of like, where were you a couple months ago?
Yeah.
Actually,
what step were you on?
That I do that I didn't talk about is like, last year I started every day. I have like a calendar up in this room right now that I'm in, where like, if it was a good day, I check it off, and if it was a bad day, I just give it an X. And I did it last year to like just have an idea of like where my mental health was kind of at over the year. And last year I would do a thing where like, if it was I would give it like a check and an X, and I stopped doing that this year because I thought that was kind of counterproductive.
Right.
So if it was a good day, even if it wasn't a perfect day, but it was a good day,
just a solid good day,
that gets a check. And if it was like a bad day, like whatever that means to me, then it gets the X. And I actually like doing that, and that's something
great, man.
It's a small thing, because it was interesting to go back and look at last year and be like, man, these 3 months were awesome. Like I had like 2 bad days, and then like at the end of 2020, man, it was like kind of to look at. Yeah, it was like, oh fuck, November was not good.
That's a great way to track it, though. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that before. That's a really cool system to use.
You know what? The other thing though, too, and I'd have to bring it back up, but in saying that, where I was like, oh man, like the last 4 months of 2020 were awful. And then I went back and looked, and I was like, actually, there was more good days in here than I thought. And I think that that's important, because
that's
it was
a good
like,
reminder,
I realized how I got in my head and was like, yeah, dude, like those 4 months were total write-offs. Like those were brutal. And then I looked and was like, oh, actually, yeah, there was some good days. There was like a week in the middle of September that was actually great, and I think that was just an interesting kind of experiment that I did.
That's great, man. I would definitely advise any listeners, if they want to try that out, to do it. That's really cool, man. I might start doing it myself.
Yeah, man, try it out. It's a simple thing that you just look at the day before and you go, yeah, it was a good day. There you go. And it doesn't take, you don't have to journal about it or anything. It's just it's a very like quick and easy thing to do. And I mean, obviously, if you want to journal, but I just mean like, it's not complicated. It doesn't take like any time out of your day.
Yeah.
Just take a quick like you know, what like appraisal of the day before and be like,
yeah,
cool, that was good. Or be honest with yourself and be like, no, yesterday was a bad day. But don't think about it. Like if yesterday was a bad day, I don't like dwell on that. I'm just honest with myself and go like, yeah, like you didn't win yesterday, but
it's almost like the X is like closure.
Yeah.
In a weird way, you know, like it's kind of like you're analyzing the day. You go, okay, you know, yesterday was a shit day.
Yeah.
Boom. I put the X down. It's done.
Yeah. And it's
Move
over.
on.
You know, and you wake up the next, and that's not, I try to wake up now every day, even though I don't want to go to work or whatever, right? And I just go like, yeah, today's going to be a good day. And just like start that positive, like
mental attitude.
Yeah. Just like
PMA.
Because like I'll still do it now. Like I wake up and like I immediately like have 4 thoughts of like shit I need to do. Yeah. And I have to actually be like, Caleb, stop. Like I have to actually be like, you need to quit, like chill. Cause I'll just get like, it'd be like today where I was like, I have to go to work. I'm doing the podcast with Taylor tonight. I have stuff I need to edit. And it's like fucking 6 a.m. and my head is fucking spinning. And I'll be like, dude, like stop. You just woke up. Like stop. None of that matters right now.
You'll get to it when you get to it.
Yeah. Today's going to be a good day. And then I like drag out of bed and I get going. But like, it's just, I don't know. That's, that would be my advice. If you can find advice in that long-winded dive I just went on, that's my
that was a great final thought. It was awesome. I'm sure people can get something. I got something out of it at least. So
dude, man, and I before we stopped it too, like I think it's awesome that you're doing this because I think it's I have a tough time on my own podcast. I mean, it's a different thing too, but like talking about that sometimes. And I think it's awesome, man, because I don't think there's enough conversations with like regular people talking about this shit, man. And like it doesn't get like in depth enough. I think, you know, there's
absolutely, man,
there's Bell Let's Talk every whatever, and it's like there's a day of people texting you shit so they can send a cent to whatever.
It's a bit of a scam. I still support it because it is doing good.
I feel the same way where I'm like it's cool that you're doing it, but like
because at least it's being talked about.
Yeah,
you know, like it's better than not being talked about.
Yeah,
right. So
it's like hey, donate all the time, Bell, and all the money that you have.
Yeah, you could literally donate 5 cents of every call.
Yeah,
you're a $1 million company. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, it's like what do we? It's kind of like there's I don't know whose bit it is. I can't remember, but it's like going to like a grocery store and then they have the like donation bins. And the bit was like, I just take stuff off the shelf and I put it in the donation bin. And they're like, hey, you have to pay for that. And it's like, why do I have to, like, you're the grocery store. You know what I mean?
Give the food.
Yeah. It's like what, like Jeff Bezos owns like Whole Foods or some shit. And it's like, why am I buying the peanut butter? Like Jeff fucking send a bunch of peanut butter to the to the food drive. You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, what the fuck is this? Like, why is the grocery store, you're getting the money and then I'm giving the food away? Like, it's obviously still great to do that shit, but it's just like a funny thought of like, yeah, why is the grocery store where all the food is? Why are they not like donating like food,
a little bit of it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or straight from the source of where they buy, because it probably goes through somebody else, right? They gotta buy it from somebody else who buys it from somebody else. So like, why does it the main man just go, okay, I make this shit, here's the stuff for the grocery store, here's stuff for donation?
Yeah, exactly, man.
I don't know, but whatever. That's a whole other thing we can get on.
Yeah, exactly. That's our other podcast where we complain about corporations.
Watch out for Caleb and I's new podcast.
Yeah, there's a new podcast.
Shit talk everything.
Yeah. Dude, that'd be a great podcast.
But thank you, man. No, I really appreciate it, buddy. That means a lot, dude. And like I said to you earlier before we started rolling, like I just had this idea because like you said, like I just don't feel like it's talked enough about.
Mm-hmm.
And I come from a background of I've dealt with this a lot in my life, and I'm lucky enough to have a therapist now.
Yeah.
I've been seeing regularly and stuff, but like not everybody has that safe avenue to go down. You know, and like we said in the podcast, everybody deals with it differently and everything's relative to everybody, right? So like I don't know other people's situations, right? So the least I can do is come on here to a platform that I know I can do. Like a podcast is something I know I can do, and it's a free platform to express however I want to express myself, right?
Right. Well, man, and like when I listened to the first episode, I think I messaged you because I was sitting here just like in awe. I was like, man, Taylor's been through some shit, man, like stuff that I could never imagine. And I was like, it's fucking ballsy to just be like, I'm gonna start this show, and like the first episode is like here's my life, like here's what I went through, like here's what I go through. And it took me a long time to be comfortable to just to admit that I had an anger issue.
Right.
And you know, you're like sharing these like this crazy life that you've lived and stuff that you've gone through that I couldn't imagine what that was like. And then I'm like, fuck, man, you know, whatever is my thing. But you know, like we said, everything's relative. But
I get that a lot, man. I get the whole like. It's funny. I think my roommate and I were talking about this like a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, whatever it was, about like she was like, "How do you feel when people say that about you? Like when you tell them your story?" Because I'm pretty open about it now.
Yeah.
Like how you mentioned, like the first episode of this podcast is about me opening up, and
Yeah.
I did that more so like. I'm not coming from like a woe is me standpoint. I'm just literally saying my life so that people understand why, like where I'm coming from with this podcast.
Right.
Like I'm not just some random guy who like pretends to care about mental health because it's trendy or some bullshit.
Yeah.
I actually deal with my own mental health illnesses, and I have for pretty much my whole life.
Yeah.
And I want to be a voice in the ether.
Yeah.
And like let people feel comfortable and vulnerable come on and express their story, so it becomes more normal to talk about instead of being so fucking taboo and negatively stigmatized in the media.
Absolutely.
That was my whole idea.
Absolutely, man. And I think it's great that we're like, and that's the thing, man, is like, even I noticed like my parents' generation is like my parents have been like a little bit more open with talking about that stuff. But it just like wasn't a thing that was like cool and like that, or that you even thought you could talk about back in the day. Like I think one of my great grandmas had like a bit of a drinking problem, and after she passed, like even in like the recent years, they've been like, I think she was depressed, you know, like they started like going through the thing, but like back then, dude, like that you weren't depressed, like
you're just sad,
you know. You just whatever, like, and you don't talk about it, and then you fucking drink or whatever it is. Right? Where like I like now that we're trying to, you know, and people still, you know, drown their sorrows and stuff like that, but I think that
there's still vices.
There's still vices, and it's just trying to get ahead of that, though, or finding like good vices, you know, like go for a
exercise,
run, or a workout, or
talking to people.
Exercise is a big one, man. Like
absolutely, dude. Huge.
Exercise is funny, man, because like it always sucks to do, but you never exercise and feel bad afterwards. Like
I always feel great
when you exercise. You always feel amazing afterwards. But it's like,
without fail.
Fuck of like, I don't want to go to the gym, and it's like, but you know, like it's a guarantee that you are going to feel better afterwards, and it's and like. And me included, there's like, I'm gonna not do it today.
I'm also guilty of it, man. So like, I totally get
or the day that you're like, no, you're going, and then you do it, and then you get out, and you're like, I'm so glad I did that. Like, holy shit, like I feel amazing.
Now I feel like $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I
mean? Usually a better day. But yeah, man. We
anyways, buddy, thank you for that. That means a lot, man. And I thank you for coming on the show, buddy. I really appreciate it, dude. And thank you for sharing your story with us, with me and the listeners, and being open about stuff that you're struggling with. I know it's, like I said at the top of the show, like it's not easy for people to talk about sometimes. And I feel like we're getting better. Like you said, I'm pretty positive about it. Like I think we've come leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
And if I can just be another source of that, that's all I could hope for, right? That's the whole mission of this podcast, is to start a positive community around discussing this stuff openly.
Absolutely.
So thank you for believing in that, and thank you for coming on and being a part of it, buddy.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. I'm so stoked that you asked me, and dude, anything I can do to help to boost it to the masses, I will do.
Absolutely, man. So I like to ask my guests at the end of the podcast, anything to plug, buddy? Anything coming up in your life that people should know about?
When's this coming out? Do you know?
Probably next week, I'm guessing.
Okay, so Lost Arts just dropped a new track. It's called Dead Eyes. Please go listen to that. And you can listen to We Should Jam sometime. We put out episodes every Friday. Taylor was on like episode 32 or something, but we're gonna
way back
that soon. Whenever next time you put a single out, dude,
it'll be soon,
and we'll talk about it. Well, there you go. Then you heard it here soon. Taylor will be on, because we're at like just over 100 episodes.
Which is crazy. Congrats to Caleb, by the way, for that. Good job, buddy.
You need a clap sound effects. Yeah.
The reels.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's pretty much it. So yeah, We Should Jam Sometime. You can listen to that wherever, and Lost Arts you can also listen to wherever.
Dude, and I will vouch for this man. I mean, he's been nothing but great. You pampered me, so I'm gonna pamper you.
Yeah.
So sit down and take it. Nah, man, Caleb's been great. Like, since the first time we all met up back at your old place, when Common Chase was a wee baby band.
Yeah.
And you didn't know who the fuck we were. We were like from a different city.
Yeah, you messaged me out of the blue.
Yeah, I just happened to come across it, and someone was like, "Hey, like, you should check out Caleb's podcast. We should jam sometime or something." I don't know. It came into my lap at some point, and I was like,
"Yeah,
let's be sick." So like, I messaged you. You were super open about it. We drove down, did the podcast. It was great, and we've been in touch ever since.
It's just been fun. That's what I love about doing it, man. It's opened a lot of doors for me and for just other people. Like we've been able to like play shows together, and then like in doing that, like we're able to introduce each other to like different people.
Yeah, because I met Anella through you guys, and I met Plants and Ready the Prince and
Prince. Yeah, man.
Patrick too. You were like, yo, check out that band. So I got into them.
Yeah, and now they're like one of the biggest fucking bands
in Canada or the world.
Yeah.
Like
nuts, dude.
Yeah, dude. It's awesome how that works out.
Yeah, it's a little scam I created to network, and it's just like
it's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. I got Taylor in on
buy in low.
Yeah, so it's been fun, man. I'm glad to see that it's like starting to grow, and like there's like a community kind of building around it, which is fun, man. Like I love that, like the odd time like somebody will tweet about it or something and like make fun of us, and I'm like, dude, this is sick.
Yeah, I'll occasionally share something from time to time if I like it, or when you guys have like a poll up, I always make sure to answer.
Yeah. You know, so I always love with the Instagram polls, like it'll be like 55% of people voted this way, and then you look and it's like 3 people voted, and you're like, looks cool though.
Like it looks cool, it doesn't matter, it's fine. But yeah, man, like this guy is great. Lost Arts is fucking sick. If you guys don't listen to Lost Arts, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, what the heck?
They got a new song coming out. It may already be out by the time you're listening to this, or it may not. I don't know yet, but
it's out on May 25th. So if
May 25th, there you go.
After May 25th, then it's out, and
go check it out on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever streaming platform you use.
What do you got? Tell your mom about it.
And listen to We Should Jam Sometime. It's a sick podcast with Caleb and Craig.
Craig Gignac.
Yeah, those guys are awesome. They're like way more consistent than I am.
It's a lot easier though. I have a co-host, so you have to find a guest and talk to the guest, you know.
Thank you for making excuses for me. I appreciate
that. I can just make fun of Craig, or we make Julia sit in the corner and we call her Juan Julia, so she doesn't even have an actual name.
I saw that and I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, we called her Juan Julia. And then actually, funnily enough, Craig started dating this girl and her name's Julia. So
wow.
Double
Julia.
She hasn't been on the show yet, but if she does, her name's gonna be Juan Julia also. Like also it's gonna be part of the name.
I love that.
Yeah, so
I would just call him like Julia squared or something.
Yeah, that could also work too. Well, we'll do a poll and see which one.
Do a poll and see what name.
Yeah, and see what works. Oh man, yeah, dude, I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
No worries, dude. Where can people find you, buddy? Where are you on social media? What's your handle?
Yeah, I'm on social media. Well, We Should Jam Sometime is We Should Jam Pod everywhere. Lost Art. We changed the Lost Arts tag now. Lost Arts is Lost Arts Music everywhere.
Oh, I really liked. I can't find my arts.
I know, me too. And it was just like maybe we should make everything more uniform. So
it makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah. And then my personal one is cousin Kalo on Instagram.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
go check him out, everybody. Go support his art. This guy's been awesome. Yes. Caleb, thanks again for being on, buddy. I really appreciate it, dude.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you so much. I love you, buddy.
I love you too, man. It's been too long. Let's not go 2 years again, okay?
Yeah, that sounds good, man.
All right, bye guys. Thanks so much for listening. Drop a review on Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure to follow all that good stuff. Spread the word. Wear your mask. Take a deep breath. Drink some water.
Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated, please. Yes, so we can go back to playing shows again.
Yeah, just for that reason.
Not really. I don't care about anything else. Just that. And on that note, bye everybody.
Peace.